Greetings, visionaries. This is your host, the INFJ Visionary. Maybe we'll just talk a little bit about the dark side today. Not that I have one. Well, of course I do. I have a dark side. I think one of the big points that Carl Jung made, though, that is about integration and individuation, is that you should be really working on integrating your dark side, not just accepting all the negative fallout that comes from it, but accepting that it's a part of you, that it's having an effect on your daily decisions and the things you say. And otherwise, what will happen is that it's going to keep functioning, it's going to keep operating in your life, but it's going to do so on an unconscious basis that when it does manifest will become, you know, potentially traumatic. So, what are some of the things I think that spark our dark side? Well, some of us have problems with perfectionism, and perfectionism and anger are tied together. I don't know if you were aware of that. And for the most part, I try never to be angry, but in fact, I will be easygoing, mellow, just letting things go until at one point there'll be a tipping over. And at that point, it tends to be too much. It tends to be a giant flood. Temple Guardians. Here's someone coming up the path. Yeah. But we don't want any interruptions today. So that's one factor. And if you haven't linked perfectionism with anger, well, it's pretty simple because you have this ideal of how things should be, and when reality doesn't conform to that, therein lies the anger. It could be things that people are doing or saying that you don't think are right. It could be in your work. It could be that things that you know how to do um, and do well most of the time aren't working out. I think there we tend not to get so much angry, but another way the dark side manifests is in this being misunderstood thing. Now, I think in the INFJ, I don't know tons of us. I know quite a few, and most of them are not dudes. So I can't say if I know any INFJ men. I've no doubt I have. Yeah. So, like I said, I don't know a lot of INFJ dudes, but I do know myself real well. And the misunderstood thing, I think we just take it as a matter of course, and that we're not going to be understood if we really talk about the things that we're thinking about or that we are dwelling on constantly. Unless, of course, we're talking with somebody who vibes with us, and that's always wonderful. It's great. As far as from the dark side perspective, this is what I would have to say. Don't worry about being understood. First of all, there's one great truth. You can etch this right in the front of your brain there, and that is that nobody really cares about you. Your loved ones do, yes, but to a large degree, a lot of their care is because you're part of their life matrix. They don't feel your pain the way you do, and they don't think your thoughts, and they haven't lived your life. So even if they do care, it's only going to be to a certain degree, and you already know this, I'm sure, because you've lived it experientially. Yeah. More dark side stuff. Let's see. We got the perfectionism slash anger matrix. We have the not being understood and wanting to be. How about inefficacy in the world? Now, I think that is a manifestation of the dark side in many ways because um, we have ideas. In fact, one of the best models I've heard for the INFJ is that of the counselor. And yes, counselor to your friends and counselor to your family and people in your life, or even strangers that didn't ask for counseling. But really think of the wise man whispering into the ear of the king. I think that's a perfect, or the wise woman, as the case may be, whispering into the ear of the king. That is the perfect vision of the INFJ. And earlier on another broadcast, I had brought up Plato. That's definitely what he was about. And why is that? Because we don't really have, I think, the sort of fortitude that's required to manufacture the structures in the external world, or maintain. We could probably make them, and we can certainly envision them. And not only that, I think that our ideas about how to create these structures are valid. But we, to really get these things moving, I think we would need to team up with another type that is better at building in the external world. I don't think that's us. I think we're great at planning. I think we're great at um, seeing the future, seeing solutions, but not so great at being the figurehead, the one that's going to implement them. And how does that work with the dark side? Well, it's really the dark side that would keep you back from that. You do have the ability to do it, but I think the shadow is always going to make you question yourself and what you're doing. And also, we have all these blind spots. Now, those blind spots aren't necessarily a function of the dark side. They're just actually right in the light side of our equation. We have this extroverted sensing component, which is it's active. It's part of our conscious processes, but it's not something that you can lead with. And it's really what you would need to. The word extroverted and sensing means seeing things in the external world and seeing all the things that could crop up to knock over the things you're trying to build and make. And that's all to the good. We all have our strong features and our weak ones. And what are you going to do? Be happy with what you are. If you try and get yourself into a position where you can whisper into the ear of the king, or you can team up with somebody that maybe doesn't see as far or as clearly as yourself, but is able to pull people together and create consensus and things like that, that would be incredibly powerful. And, I think the universe made us this way for a reason. If we had all of our massive and integrated abilities, and we could bring them to bear while being fully extroverted, it would be kind of dangerous, especially if you were someone who hadn't integrated their dark side. And in the last minute here, I'll talk about that. So I haven't fully integrated my dark side, but my strategy is this: if it's cropping up and it bites me on the bum, I acknowledge it and I say, okay, there you are. I see you, and I see the mechanisms that were in play that brought you to the fore, to the degree where you started wreaking some havoc in my life or with my plans, right? And don't shunt it away. There's a lot of these aspects of the dark side are like your inner children, so to speak. They need attention. They need to be acknowledged, and then they need to be integrated. I'm sure I'm missing a few dark side things, and that's really the nature of it. But, hopefully I gave you some insight. And I think at the end of the day, insight's what it's all about. I think the INFJ basically climbs life like a ladder, insight by insight. And hopefully you've picked a direction and you're moving in it. And that's important too. Maybe a topic for another talk, but you need to be going to a place and using your faculties to support that. That's it for today, INFJ. Until I come back, probably a couple other days, do me a favor and keep on keeping on.